Ajanulam Bitibujo Kanakavadato Sankirtanaika Pitaro Kamala Yataksho Vishwambaro Ivadwijabaro Yuga Dharma Palo Bande Jagat Priyakaro Korna Avataro Guru Rupa Harim Gauram Radha Ruchi Ruchavratam Nityam Nomi Navadipe Nama Kirtana Nartanai Mahaprabhu Gauranga Sundara Nagarabara Nityam Nidir Nama Bi Namo Mahavaranaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurtise Namaha Nindandam Pulakot Korena Bikasam Nipa Prasunatstavim Prodikritva Bujadvayam Hari Hari It Uchai Vedantam Muhu Nityantam Dutamasru Nirjara Chaye Sinchantam Urvitalam Gayantam Nija Parasadaya Parivratam Sri Gaura Chandram Nama Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Hemaba Divyachchavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. So we're approaching the Makara Sankranti, which is when the sun goes in the Uttaraya, in the northern direction. It's going to be January 15, and that's the day we traditionally celebrate Mahaprabhu's taking of sannyas. But today, it's the evening where he will leave his house and go to Katwa, swim across the Ganga, go to Katwa. But why he's doing these things, we have to understand. It's only out of inconceivable, causeless mercy that Krishna descends in this world in the form of so many avatars to rescue the fallen souls. All of the pastimes have some, some variation on this point. Yada yada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata abhutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham paritvanaya sarunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma sangsta punartaya sambhavami juge juge. So yuga after yuga, he's appearing, and we're told in this particular incarnation is very special because we're informed that it's only once in a day of Brahma that Swayam Bhagavan Krishna comes. Because we hear of all these other avatars, Matsya, Kurma, Nrsinga, Vaman, etc. Well, we're told once in a day of Brahma, Swayam Bhagavan Krishna comes, the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what does that mean? Approximately 4,300,000,000 years. Right? 4,300,000,000 years. And during that period, once will Swayam Bhagavan Krishna come. And there's an overlapping of the yugas. Normally it's Satya, Dwapara, Treta, Kali, but this time it will be Satya, Treta, Dwapara, Kali. And in the Kali Yuga that follows, Swayam Bhagavan, Gaur Avatar, Avatar Sar, Gaur Avatar, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will descend. As Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan, and all the expansions, incarnations are absorbed within him, same position for Mahaprabhu. And so we're told at this time It is time for the Yuga avatar, and also Krishna is experiencing an overwhelming desire to descend himself and embrace the position of Srimati Radharani. That's given in Chaitanya Charitamritam. Kaviraj Goswami, quoting Rupa Goswami, aparam kasyapi pranayi janamrindasya kutuki rasotstamam hritva madhuram upabhoktam kamapiya. Surveying all the divine servitors, one outshines all the others to such a degree that all the others are cancelled in the presence of her devotion. And it awakens the curiosity in Krishna to experience her position. Because as Krishna, he can only theoretically understand it, because Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. Right? The position of a devotee is never that of an enjoyer, but the enjoyed. He's the predominating moiety, half. She is the predominated half. Right? And the devotee never desires to take his position. But seeing, observing the effects of the sound of Krishna's name, his divine aroma, the sight of Krishna, the beautiful form of Krishna, seeing the effects upon Srimati Radharani, has awakened the curiosity in Krishna to know what it is like to experience her position. Guru Maharaj has likened it to saying that, like sweetness, seeing that everyone is mad for sweetness, thinks, I'd also like to taste sweetness and see what everyone is experiencing. Right? So he says, Nrityam Nijar Namabi. He's taking his own name, but like with the, how do you say, the voltage of the Krishna Nama of Srimati Radharani, the effects that Krishna Nama has upon her, he will get the chance to experience that. So simultaneously, whenever Krishna appears, his Guru Varga comes first. Guru Varga means not only who will later play the role of his guru, but mother, father, auntie, uncle, so many divine personalities will appear before, enabling so many different types of pastimes. So in the same way, with Mahaprabhu, Haridas Thakur has appeared, Advaita Acharya, Nityananda, others. And Advaita Acharya, he and Haridas Thakur, out of compassion for the fallen souls, they see, and not just, shall we say, run-of-the-mill fallen souls, but they're seeing people who are very acquainted with Vedic literature and knowledge, who are pundits, totally wasting their time and totally missing the purport of Veda. Where Krishna says in the Gita, Vedaishta sarvara hangeva vedyo vedanta vid vedakrit eva chaham. Of all the Vedas, I'm what is to be known. In fact, I'm the compiler of the Veda, the knower of the Veda. So they're feeling, the only suffering they experience is seeing those who are suffering for want of Krishna consciousness. So we're told, Advaita Acharya, with a palm full of Ganga Jal and tulsi leaves, Tulsi Dala Matrena, Jalasya Chulakena Va, Vikrinite, Atmanam Swam, Bhaktevyo Bhakta Vatsala. Knowing the Lord as Bhakta Vatsala, He is in love with His devotees. And we're also told, Chaitanya Bhagavat, He is Sevak. sevata, sevak, sevata, sevait vatsala, in love with his servants. So he's pleading with him. And later, Mahaprabhu will say, at the time this curiosity awakened in me to experience the position of Srimati Radharani, I heard the plaintive cries of Advaita for me to descend. So he's taking advantage of that moment to come. So he wants to descend in this world, which Guru Maharaj reminds us is the infinite moving amongst the finite. That's one of the peculiar highlights of what we call prapancha lila, which means the pastimes manifest in this world. Because we may say, in the spiritual world, there are no fallen souls. Everyone's a liberated soul. They're in that position. But here, he said, the infinite moving amongst the finite as though he's one of them. That's, one shudders to think and realizing that for even a moment. So he's come to experience the position of a devotee, we can say Bhakta Bhav, but ultimately Radha Bhav, the highest devotion of the highest devotee. Mahabhav Swarupini Sri Radha Thakurani. Right? So we were talking about Chintamani the other day, saying Mahabhav Chintamani Radhara Swarup. She's the Mahabhav Chintamani Swarup. She's coming in connection with that. It's transferred to others. So when he appears, he will show how one achieves the position of a devotee. Now, inasmuch as he's going to ultimately embrace her position, we should think, well, why didn't he come as a female? Why does he come, otherwise? But it is to, first of all, he's Krishna descending. Secondly, to show, as Srila Saraswati Thakur mentions in the beginning of the Chaitanya Bhagavat, that to try and impose the, Madhura Rasa pastimes of Vrindavan upon Gaur Lila is a mistake. Right? The Nimai Pandit does not have such pastimes with Lakshmi Priya or Vishnu Priya. Right? What to speak of in any other context. So all of these, Mahaprabhu will embrace the position of a sannyasi, and he's mad after Gopi Bhav. So who's the crown jewel of sannyasis? Why is he obsessed with Gopi Bhav, the love possessed of Srimati Radharani and the Braja Gopis for Krishna? So it is the show. That it is not any, there isn't even a remote trace of mundane aspect. But still, so when he descends in this plane, there has to be the pastimes of gradually achieving the position of a devotee. So we're told in his youthful pastimes, Vidyar Bilas, he's Nimai Pandit, the Sanskrit school teacher, and it's a Prakrita Leela. So how is he disguised? Primary education. You don't think, oh, he's the Supreme Lord, he should be teaching this super high level of advanced Sanskrit. No, he's teaching the primary students, like the beginning classes. But we know later he will defeat Keshava Kashmiri, convert him into a devotee. Right? So, and during that time, we're also told he's sometimes showing some arrogance, and you could think if you actually do know everything, it's like there's people, oh, Mr. Know-it-all, thinks he knows everything. But what if you actually do know everything? It's a little different. But sometimes he likes to tease Gadadhar Pandit by bewildering him, by taking different sides of arguments and proving each one, disproving the other one, and leaving Gadadhar flustered. And who is Gadadhar Pandit, but none other than the remainder, having plundered the heart of Radharani, the remainder is Gadadhar. So Guru Maharaj said, Gadadhar must always be near the possessor of her wealth, her wealth originally, Srimati Radharani. So, and as a side point, we think that, so Krishna is appearing as Gauranga Mahaprabhu, right? Kala Chandra Krishna, the dark moon, due to contact with her, being enveloped in the Radha Bhava Duty Subalita, he becomes Gaura Chandra, the golden moon. And what about Radharani? That Radharani will descend and express the form of Gadadhar, inconceivable beauty. How beautiful this boy must be, Gadadhar Pandit, if it's Srimati Radharani expressing herself in that way. So it's very charming to Nimai Pandit and Sachi Mata and all the devotees, and being so devoted and thinking, very attracted to Nimai Pandit, and thinking like, Nimai Pandit is perfect in every way except one. He's not a devotee. Like sometimes devotees think that way about their former friends or people, and they think, oh, if this person was just a devotee. And which is, a mild element of, humor, because he's not a devotee, it's Krishna. So to say, oh, he's not a devotee. So, like, what is Krishna's flaw, if he has one? That he's not a devotee. What is Krishna feeling, how do you say, that left out, everyone gets to experience this except me, right? And we should say too that if Krishna can be converted into a devotee, then who cannot be converted into a devotee? So there's hope for everyone. Because even Krishna has been converted into a devotee by the love and affection of Srimati Radharani. So he's showing those pastimes of the sometimes arrogant scholar Nimai Pandit, and sort of suppressing what will later be fully expressed. And his father, Jagannath Mishra, having passed away from the world, it's appropriate for the son to, Visvarup having already left, his elder brother, and taken sannyas, it was appropriate for him to go to Gaya and perform the Shraddh ceremony for his father, these traditional rites for departed parents, relatives, ancestors. So he takes his students to Gaya. Right? And on the way there, he develops a fever. Right? So they're trying all these different ways to cure him of the fever, and then he says, the only cure for this fever is if I get some water that has washed the feet of Brahmins, that will cure me. Because Krishna, one of the most famous primary foundational verses always for glorifying Krishna, even from Mahaprabhu to Jagannath at Rath Yatras, Namo Brahmana Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagaditaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. How much favorably disposed he is toward Brahmins. So they get the water from the lotus feet of the Brahmins, give it to Nimai Pandit, he drinks that, and immediately he's cured. So he's teaching them in this instance. And when they're there, in many different places, he's going to give the appropriate offerings of flowers, fruits, etc. But people are so enamored by his beauty and his presence, his spiritual persona, that we're told, whenever he finishes, like offers the flowers, the people madly run after, and they're eating them and, and honoring them in so many different ways. And at last he comes to the famous, the lotus feet of Vishnu, and there, and was called Pada Padma Tirtha. He's thinking, those are the lotus feet from which the Ganga descends, the lotus feet that are aspired for by Brahma and Shiva, all ever attended by the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi. And this just causes him to become immersed in ecstatic emotions and crying Ganga-like streams of tears. And it's around this time that he's hearing from these Brahmins also, Krishna Katha, and it's having these effects upon him. You can say in a sense, it's awakening his devotional tendencies. And it's around that time that Ishvara Puri comes, who will become his guru. And Mahaprabhu is saying, now that I'm seeing you, my pilgrimage here has become perfect. But Ishvara Puri's, he's thinking the inverse. Now that I'm seeing you, everything's become perfect. And we're told that one day, Nimai Pandit himself is cooking. And he's cooking what will be offered and that he will take. And at that time, Ishvara Puri comes to visit him. So he's so excited. He wants to offer that to Ishvara Puri. And Ishvara Puri said, no, you cook again something. And he said, no, you must take this, please. And he said, I'll cook again. And he finally coaxes him to do that. And we're told this cooking again, that Rama Devi, the goddess of, she starts cooking very quickly in some mystical planes, and that was what will be taken by Nimai Pandit. And at that time, Nimai Pandit says to him, please liberate me from this world and give me diksha, give me initiation. Will you give me initiation? And Ishvara Puri responds by saying, not only will I give you initiation, I will give myself to you. Right? I will offer myself. What to speak of initiation? I want to offer myself to you. Right? And he gives him the mantra. And after that, Nimai Pandit sends his disciples back to Nabadwip. And he's thinking, now I just want Krishna. Nothing. I'm going to give up the world. I just want Krishna. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just Krishna, Krishna. Where is Krishna? And we're told he visits the birthplace of Ishvara Puri, and as worshipable. And he sets the example that from that place he takes some dust. And he will carry that with him as worshipable, and sometimes sprinkle some of the dust from the birthplace of the lotus feet of his Gurudev. So, sending his student back to Nabadwip, he's now thinking, I'm going to Vrindavan. He's just thinking, Krishna, Kotai, Krishna, Kotai, Krishna. Where is Krishna? So he is making his way toward Mathura Vrindavan immediately. So just saying, he just got initiated, sends everyone home, and now he's going to Vrindavan. Like Kahan Krishna Prananath Murli Vadan, Kahan Karun Kahan Pan, Brajendra Nandan. Where is Krishna? The search for Sri Krishna, as Srila Guru Maharaj says, Krishnanu Sandan. Searching for the ultimate Lord of our heart. As Guru Maharaj said, Tato Brahma Jigyasa, he said, Brahma Jigyasa, that is a dry thing. Generic spiritual. He said, now is the time, Rasa Jigyasa. Search for the heart's inner necessity that can only be fulfilled in connection with Krishna. So, as he's making his way to Vrindavan, always taking Krishna Nam, and so a voice in the sky, so it's like, Nimai Pandit, don't go to Vrindavan now. You will go later. Now you should return to Nabadwip. And he accepts that. It said, you will go to Vrindavan, and what your heart is hankering for, you'll get that, but just not right now. Right now, you need to return to Nabadwip. So he accepts that, turns around, goes back to Nabadwip, and when he gets to Nabadwip and resumes his teaching position, when he starts giving the lessons, he starts telling the students, whatever it is they're studying, he's saying, the answer is Krishna. The verbal root, the dhatu, everything's Krishna. Every interpretation he gives goes toward Krishna. And he's proving it. It's not that he's just madly talking. He's showing this to them. As we know, later, Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhu will make the Harinamamrita Vyakaran, where he's teaching Sanskrit grammar through names of Krishna. But here, Mahaprabhu's going to the source, the origin. As Guru Maharaj said with regard to Madhvacharya, expressing once that, he said, like a horse, a bridled horse goes in the direction of the master. You put and pull him this way, that way. Saying, but if you release the bridle, the reins, then the horse will run according to its own necessity. So he's saying, every word, and it has a local context and meaning. He said, that's the bridles, the reins. Saying, but if you release the reins of the local relative context of any word, it will run towards the absolute, the sweet absolute, Krishna. So he's really not only saying these things, which is astonishing them, and they're a little concerned, because all he's saying, Krishna, 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 everything's Krishna, only serve Krishna, only take the name of Krishna. But he's saying it and giving some proof. So they approach Gangadas Pandit, Nimai Pandit's teacher, and tell him about this, and he just starts laughing and says, okay, just tell him to come and see me. Get him and come back and see me, and I'll straighten this all out. And he calls Nimai Pandit and his students and says, well, I taught you a particular way, your father and his, so please, and yes, whatever you say I must do. They continue with the classes. It's Krishna, Krishna, only worship Krishna, sing the name of Krishna, only think about Krishna 24 hours. This is how he starts his preaching, really. He's thinking, I need to come out, because he's also hearing that atheists and other offenders, they're abusing the devotees, making hardship in their lives, mocking them. He himself previously would sometimes tease devotees, but in like a charming way, sometimes mimicking them, or we heard when he came back from East Bengal, they have a particular way of speaking Bengali. He would imitate that and would make everyone laugh. But that was in, good-humored. But other people were in an offensive way mocking the devotees. And this was becoming increasingly intolerable to him. So, but this non-stop Krishna, Krishna, also Mother Sachi was kind of at first like, oh, you know, this new devotional mood of his, but then seeing how it was also accompanied by a growing spirit of renunciation and giving of the world. And you think, your father's gone to Vaikuntha, Vishwarup took sannyas, you're all I have, you're why I live, to see your lotus face, to hear your beautiful voice. The thought of him also giving up the world was putting her in deep anxiety. So when he would be in the house, going on with his Krishna, Krishna, she thought, remember, Vishnu Priya is inconceivably beautiful. So Mother Sachi would put Vishnu Priya in front of him and thinking like, she's showing like the pastime of being a mom. She doesn't want to lose her son. She's thinking, this beautiful girl is mine. Just put her there and maybe that will distract him. So Vishnu Priya would sit right in front of him and he'd be, you know, his Krishna, Krishna. And the thing, she's right in front of him and he doesn't see her. He's that deep into another plane. And then sometimes he's laughing, crying, and then sometimes he's roaring like a lion, and that would scare Vishnu Priya, and so she'd run away and hide. So sometimes she and Mother Sachi, like from a hidden position, they're seeing, is it like safe to come out? Because it's so intense what's flowing through him at that time. So finally, when Mother Sachi is worried, to calm her, it says, he starts giving her instructions the way Kapila Dev instructed Devahuti about how children appear in the womb, in this world, they come out, karma. He gives her some basic spiritual instructions to try and keep her calm. And at this time, he goes back to his students and sees that he can't go on teaching them. So he's saying, I'm releasing you all. Whatever teacher you want now, you can have. But I will not be teaching anymore. And I just want you to always take the name of Krishna, worship Krishna, sing the names of Krishna, 24 hours a day, whatever you're doing. Remember Krishna? And they say, we don't want any other teacher but you. And Vrindavan Das Thakur points out, like saying, who would qualify to be students of Nimai Pandit? You know, just for a moment, to pause and think, how exalted are they if to be in that group? We may not hear their names. We can understand how worshipable they are. They're playing this part in the pastimes of Mahaprabhu and interacting with him. And he has so much love and affection for them. And he's distributing Krishna Nam to them. In a sense, they're the first whom he's giving Krishna Nam to. And so they tell him, we don't want any other teacher, just you. So if you're giving up everything, then we're going to give up everything and follow you. And you say, we should now just always do Nam Sankirtan. How shall we do that? And then in response, so they're saying, how shall we do Nam Sankirtan? And he says, he starts singing, Hari Harai Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. That's when he starts singing that. So we sing that. Think of where it came from. That was Nimai Pandit's advice on how to engage in Nam Sankirtan. Okay. So So now the word is spreading amongst the devotees about the growing devotional position of Nimai Pandit. And he's so humble. We're told, like, he's washing devotees their clothes. He gets flowers for them, like their pots. Like, he's doing all sorts of menial service. And they're begging him not to do that. But he persists in doing it because he considers it an honor to be the servant of the Vaishnavas. And he's always asking for their blessings. Right? So remember, his target ultimately is Radha Bhav, but he's taking the position of a beginner by rendering the most menial service to the superior Vaishnavas, asking for their blessing. And they're giving blessings because he's asking. But they're really trying to get out of this position. It's uncomfortable, but they're doing that. So other devotees meet. We're told, like Sriman Pandit, Shuk Lambar, others. When a small group of devotees meet, and they notice that Sriman Pandit seems particularly happy this day, they go, "Why, Sriman? Pandit? Why are you so happy?" And he starts telling them about Nimai Pandit, and he's always now engaged in Krishna Katha, and showing so many ecstatic symptoms. So then they make an arrangement to meet with him. He meets with the devotees privately. And Gadadhar Pandit's very eager to see this as well. So we're told he's hiding in a little room on the side just to overhear because this is astonishing to hear. And he's overhearing the Krishna Katha of Mahaprabhu and becomes, full of joy in response to that. And they're thinking, now that we've got Nimai Pandit on our side, these atheists, they're going to run and flee from us. Because he's also, in his private moments, saying things like, all these Pashandis, I'll kill them, I'll chop their heads off, they're finished, which is disturbing his mother to hear him saying these things. But it is inspiring some of the devotees. They're becoming increasingly bold about their position. So Mother Sachi, though, being increasingly worried, ask other people, do you think that there's something wrong with Nimai? When we see him sometimes chanting for hours, laughing for hours, Ganga-like streams of tears pouring out. And the people say, it must be some malady that he's suffering for previously, and it's manifest now, and maybe you should call a doctor, an Ayurvedic doctor, who comes and what is this medicine? And they call it Shiva Grita. It's like ghee, oil, Vishnu Taila oil. And they're putting this on Nimai Pandit, trying to calm him down. He's not. Guru Maharaj said at one point, they put him in like a bathtub of this oil, and he's in there just splashing and laughing, while sometimes he's laughing for 6 hours straight. So you can, and then Sachimata says, oh, Nimai's lost his mind, and calls Srivas Thakur for some advice and to say, what shall I do? And we're told when Srivas Thakur comes and he sees him, he says to her, what he's got, I want a drop of that. I want a drop of that divine substance. And we're told that Mahaprabhu says, Srivas, if you thought I'd lost my mind and I was crazy, then I would just leave this world He's saying, but that you understand what's going on. Now that gives me some encouragement to stay here. And so he begins having the nocturnal kirtans at Srivas Angam, the house of Srivas Thakur. And they're described as, like Prem Sankirtan, Rasa Sankirtan. It would be very hard for us to properly estimate the amount of divine emotion that's being expressed at that time. But it's so confidential that it's taking place behind closed doors. But there are people who can hear outside what's going on. So, and some of them are envious. And because they're sometimes crying out in ecstasy, the people outside, they're hearing what sounds to be very strange noises. And so they start spreading rumors that they're all getting intoxicated, or they're keeping women in there, or God knows what's going on in there, but it's not divine, And they're saying things, like, and remember, these people, they know scriptures, and they say, all right, can't you chant Krishna in your mind? Saying it out loud is better than chanting it mentally? What's wrong with these people? And so many things like that. Because Guru Maharaj said there was one man who wanted entrance, who only drank milk. So he thought that was his qualification, like I only drink milk. And he was shunned. And Guru Maharaj said, not only drinking milk, that is no qualification. And so he then started some of these rumors. And we're also told that, Malini, Srivas Thakur's wife's mother, his mother-in-law, that she knew what was going on in there and wanted to experience that, so she hid under a wicker basket. And we're told one night Mahaprabhu is there, just think the Pancha Tattva are there, they're singing and dancing, and Mahaprabhu said, I'm not feeling anything. No prem, no rasa is coming to me. There must be someone here who's unqualified. And they're all like, and they lift up the basket, Srimas Thakur, and then he sees his mother-in-law. She's like, Prabhu, and he takes her by the hair and drags her out of the room. And to what degree is he a devotee? We're told once during one of these Prem Sankirtan that one of his children died because he heard the women wailing in the next room. So Mahaprabhu is deep in ecstasy, and he goes, and they tell him, your son died. And he said, that may be. He said, but we should not do anything to disturb what Mahaprabhu is experiencing. So everybody quiet. So later when Mahaprabhu hears that his son died during that Sankirtan, and he didn't say anything, that's when he said, how could I ever give up a devotee like that? A devotee like that has purchased me with that type of exclusive. His own son died. And it doesn't mean he was without feelings. He's just saying whatever they are, we have to suppress that. We will not disturb him and what he's in the plane and what he's experiencing. And then, of course, Mahaprabhu brought that boy back to life, and he gave some spiritual instructions. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote about it in his songs. But, so now the opposition in Nabadwip is growing, and the their strategy is to put all the blame on Srivas Thakur. And so they're saying that the Qazi's getting, the local governor's getting news of this, that the local Vaishnav community is acting up, and he's going to send some representatives there to shut it down. And so their idea is to blame it all on Srivas Thakur so that he'll be arrested and taken away. And they're very serious about it. So hearing this, Mahaprabhu goes to the house of Srivas Thakur. At that time, Srivas Thakur is worshipping Nrsingadev for protection. Right? As devotees do, when they're anticipating that they're going to be in a difficult situation, we pray to Nrsingadev for protection. So Srivas Thakur is doing that, and there's and he's saying, Srivas, whom you're praying for is at your door. Open the door. And he's like, Srivas, who you're praying for is at your door. And so when he opens the door, and Mahaprabhu is saying, what are you doing? There's Mahaprabhu, who's Krishna himself, Anta Krishna Bahir Golamda, and he's praying in the Sringadev, and he's Avatar Sar. He's saying, so I am him. And he's saying, so don't worry about this. And he said, I have many different ways of dealing with this. And then he says, if that Qazi comes here, his representative comes, you tell him to bring all of their mullahs, all their holy teachers, the best that they have. And then ask them to do this. Ask them to get the birds, the animals, the cows, whatever living beings there are, ask them if they can make them cry. That's what he says. Ask them to make them cry. And they won't be able to do that. He's saying, but I will show you. I will make elephants, deers, cows, birds, every living being. I will get them to chant the holy name of Krishna and to cry tears of prema. And he reveals a four-armed Vishnu form at that time to show that that aspect can enforce. Right? But when he's saying, call your family members here, let them see. Right? And we're told what the Vedas want to have a glimpse of, the household members of Srivas Thakur, they have in their house. What the Vedas are searching for, the household members of Srivas Thakur, they have that darshan. And so when he's telling them, make them cry, make all the living beings cry with Krishna prema, at that time, Mahaprabhu sees the niece of Srivas Thakur, who's Narayani, and tells her, she's 4 years old. And he says, Narayani, take the name of Krishna and cry tears of prema. And the little girl starts chanting Krishna Nam, and Krishna pramic tears start pouring out of her eyes. So, in various ways, Nimai Pandit is moving in a particular direction. He's having the kirtan with the Panchatattva. At different times, there's still some, Aiswarja-like aspects manifesting in him. He goes to the house of Murari Gupta and appears as the Varaha avatar. He is showing different things like that. He shows Devi Bhav at the house of Chandrasekhar Acharya, where he takes the position of Rukmini, and Adya Shakti, and shows all the different aspects of Shakti, including Hladini Shakti, Srimati Radharani. But finally, he's, how shall we say, he's showing different forms, which may be described as like dharma murtis, those different ways that he incarnates in the world, as we call Kurma, Matsya, Varaha, Vaman, etc. But we're told when he gets to Balaram, the other ones are brief. He briefly adopts those positions. But when he takes the position of Balaram, it stays for a long time, right? Sometimes for days. And this is, of course, to the delight of Nityananda Prabhu. So remember, Radharani on one side, devotee, on the other side, Nityananda Prabhu, Balaram. So when he's taking the position of Balaram, he's sometimes calling out for wine. Like he's saying, bring me wine. And what Balaram will, Nityananda Prabhu will do at that time is he'll bring him Ganga Jal and give that to him, and he'll drink it. So if we think about this, in Charitamrita it says, Preme Mata Nityananda Kripa Avatar. Nityananda Prabhu is intoxicated by drinking Krishna Prem, right? And the Ganga really is Krishna Prem in a liquid form, right? So when he's saying, give me wine, and Nityananda is supplying the Jamuna Jal. So, but coming out of those forms, we're told that Nimai Pandit, suddenly as he was chanting Krishna, Krishna before, now he starts chanting Gopi, Gopi. So now he's chanting the Gopi, Gopi all the time. And not one of his class students, but a student comes to him and he's saying, why are you taking the name of the gopis? Why are you chanting Gopi, Gopi? You know, the scriptures say to take Krishna Nam. Then you'll get some benefit. But chanting this, you know, and this is very strange. Right? And when he suggests to Nimai Pandit to stop chanting Gopi, Gopi and to take the name of Krishna, Nimai Pandit says, why should I take his name? Krishna's a despicable person. And the guy, what? And he starts saying all the things that Krishna did in different incarnations that are just wrong. Because one type of gopi bhav is man, loving anger. So this so-called student doesn't understand what he's expressing. So, and then Mahaprabhu, so he's telling him, you should chant the name of Krishna, and he's chanting Gopi, Gopi. And he takes up a stick and he starts running after him. The guy's running away, and he runs to his friends. He goes, Nimai Pandit's really crazy. You know, he's chanting Gopi, Gopi all the time. And I told him to chant Krishna, and he said things about Krishna I can't even repeat here. You know? So what are we going to do? And Saraswati Thakur, perhaps, in his Chaitanya Bhagavat commentary, he's pointing out that why is he chanting Gopi? To show that if you are to approach Krishna substantially, you must go through the gopis. That's the only real, true devotion to Krishna, comes through them. They are the asraya vigrahas, or the shelter-giving personalities of all devotion to Krishna. So he's showing that they must be approached. So, but now there's increasing opposition in the town, and they're beginning to openly blaspheme Nimai Pandit, and he's, with a small group of his devotees, he says some mysterious statement. He says, I brought this Pipali Kanda, which is a type of Ayurvedic medicine. If you have a mucus imbalance, you take this and it reduces that. And he's saying, I brought the Pipalikanda and it's creating more. Rather than reducing it, it's getting worse. And he's saying previously, they had one rope binding them to the world. He said, now by blaspheming me, they have millions of ropes binding them. Right? So just think about it. He's saying, so I ostensibly, I've descended to this world to save everyone, right? Although he has an internal reason for the descent, but to save everyone. And what's happening? Not only are they not getting saved, but their bondage is increasing, right? 1,000,000-fold by blaspheming me. And we're told, so, but he's telling the devotees, I brought this medicine and the condition's getting worse. Or as Guru Maharaj put it, he said, the patient is abusing the doctor. So then the devotees are a little perplexed at what he's saying, but he starts laughing, just thinking like, this is crazy, this is what I've come, and I'm getting the total opposite result of what I hoped for. And so he's laughing, and then we're told, the devotees in general are somewhat perplexed, but we're told, but hearing that, Nityananda Prabhu becomes very, his mood changes and he becomes very sad because he knows what this means, that the time for his sannyas is coming. So after this, Nimai Pandit asked for Nityananda to meet privately, and he's saying, you know the situation, you know why I've descended here, so I'm going to have to, the only remedy for what's happened is if I take sannyas, then by social custom, they'll be forced to bow down to me and show respect for me, and that will counteract all of their offenses. So Nityananda Prabhu, he's heartbroken at the idea, subsequently as each devotee hears about it, the one thing that really bothers them is that they're going to shave his head. And you're saying like how much love they have for him and the beauty of Nima, and that's the thing that's just unbearable to them, that they're going to shave off his beautiful hair. So, and Nityananda's thinking that too. He's thinking, like, they're just thinking like, why can't we just go on like the way we're doing right now? Why does that have to be there? And then he's thinking, and to shave your head, and then, and Mother Sachi, it will kill her. She won't survive this. First of all, you're all she has, and she's completely attached to you, in ways that are unimaginable. How much pain and suffering it will bring to her. It'll finish her. But you are the, completely independent, Supreme Lord. Your will must be. So I can understand it. There's no trying to stop this. If you will, you're asking me for permission, but it has to happen. So very reluctantly, he's accepting that. And then one by one, he goes to Srivas Thakur, Mukunda, Gadadhar Pandit, and they're all devastated. And in the case of Mukunda, it's also, and remember, he sings many songs in Mahaprabhu's pastimes. He asked, like, can we still have the kirtans for a few days before you do that? It's just incredible that he would say that. But that's what he begs for. He said, can we have a few more of those kirtans so you can understand what's going on there is beyond what we can really conceive properly. And that is granted. Because in those kirtans we're told, the Ganga, which normally flows from the feet of the Lord, appears to be streaming out of his eyes, in the form of ecstatic tears. Gadadhar Pandit feels as though like he's been struck by a thunderbolt and tries to argue the position that others will take up, that we'll hear on Friday, on the actual Sannyas day, saying like, why is this necessary? And Gadadhar Pandit is saying, can't you be, a householder and also be Krishna conscious? Start saying all the kind of things that people normally say, but also is resigned to the fact that this is going to happen. And so, gradually, but Mahaprabhu was telling everyone to keep quiet about it. It's so, Nityananda, Mukunda, Gadadhar Pandit, and perhaps Chandrasekhar Acharya, Srivas Thakur, maybe not Srivas, but anyway, somehow the news is reaching Sachi Mata. And so Nimai Pandit, she talks to him in a very, privately, in a very appealing way. And she's just saying, it's almost like she's creating the Panchatattva as a group. She's saying, can't you just be with Nityananda and Advaita and Srivas and Gadadhar? You can still go on doing all of this, but Nityananda will be there, and she mentions Gadadhar because previously, when Nimai Pandit was so mad, saying, "Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? Gadadhar, please show me where is Krishna." And Gadadhar said, "Krishna is in your heart." And he started tearing his chest, and Gadadhar said, "Stop it! No, not like that. Krishna is coming very soon." And Sachimata saw, like, Vishnu, Priya, and I are afraid to approach him when he's in these different moods. But Gadadhar can just interact with him so intimately. And so he said, "Please, I've never seen this kind of intelligence in someone. Just always be with him. If he's with you, I know that he'll be safe." So her argument is, husband, Jagannath Mishra gone to Vaikuntha, Vishwaroop's taken sannyas, you're all I have, Vishnu Priya's 14, I only live for you, and can't you just stay and go on with your Nam Sankirtan with Nityananda, Advaita, Srivas, and Gadadhar? And we're told when she's saying this in a very pleading way, that Nimai Pandit, his head is just bowed down, and he can't say anything. He understands what he's doing to her. And these devotees also, as some of them begin to understand this. So he tells her that, don't you understand? You're always with me. Previously, you're always my mother. I incarnate repeatedly and always you're with me. You were Prishni before, perhaps in the Satyuga. You were Devahuti, and I was your son Kapila. You were Aditi, and I was Vaman. You were Devaki, and I was Krishna. So you're always with me. The devotees, he said, you incarnate, every time I incarnate, you're my eternal associates, you're always with me. And he said, and for you, those devotees, he said, in two ways, I'm going to further incarnate as what did he say? Kirtan and Ananda. So, and I will, we say, Kali Kale Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. In the Kali Yuga, Krishna's avatar is the form of his holy name. So he said, in the form of Kirtan and Anandam, right, I'll be with you. And that's particularly related to also his murti. And for Sachi, he said, my murti will be made from the earth. And so you're always my mother, you're the mother of my murti. And the holy name, the tongue is the mother of that, and you're my mother there. So in this way, he tried to make them somewhat calm. And at his house on this evening, before leaving, we're told Kolavecha Sridhar showed up, and he brought this lao, this pumpkin gourd, squash gourd like, and Mahaprabhu was thinking like, I'm going tomorrow, he doesn't know that. But it's from, someone who has so much love and affection, how can I not take it? So he's saying, I have to take this before I go. Someone else came, brought a pot of milk, so he told Sachimata, take the milk and, make something from that, which he did, and that's what he took. And all the devotees were there, and he's garlanding everyone, telling them to chant Nam Sankirtan, but they don't know what's going to happen. And they leave, and that night, he's there, Gadadhar Pandit, one other person. And Gadadhar says, I want to go with you. And Mahaprabhu said, no, I have to do this alone. And he said, nearby in Katwa, there's this Keshava Bharati, and he's a pure soul, and I must go do this alone and go there. And at the time of Brahma Muhurta, he awakened. That night, Sachi Mata could not sleep. She's just crying incessantly the whole night, and sitting in the doorway. And Nimai Pandit, he embraces his mother and circumambulates her, and Vishnupriya lies sleeping, and he left. And then he went into the Ganga, swam across the Ganga, and went to Katwa. And so that happens this evening, and tomorrow, when he arrives in Katwa at the ashram of Keshava Bharati, he makes it known he wants to take sannyas. Keshava Bharati tries to deflect that. We're told when he first saw him coming, he thought the sun had entered his ashram. Mahaprabhu was so effulgent. And he tries to defer this, Guru Maharaj said, by sending him home to get his mother's permission, which he calls him back. But so tomorrow, during that day, we're told the whole day is like consideration. And during that, Nimai Pandit is engaged in Hari Katha, Krishna Katha, Nam Sankirtan. He told Chandrasekhar, Acharya, Nityananda, and others, they're coming. Chandrasekhar will be the priest, and they'll do all these other things. But Mahaprabhu is there, engaged incessantly in Krishna Katha and Nam Sankirtan the whole evening. That's why it's tonight that he leaves. Tomorrow, the whole day, that goes on. And then the next day, he takes sannyas. And at that time, tomorrow, on Friday, we'll assemble and conclude the pastime and what Guru Maharaj considers the smaranam, divine remembrance of these pastimes, describing the sannyas of Mahaprabhu and his wandering in the search for Sri Krishna, reality the beautiful. Hari Harai Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Hari Harai Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath E Jai Go Jai Kori Charana Vandan Jaha Hoite Vignanash Abhishta Puran E Jai Go Jai Jabe Braje Koilovan E Jai Go Jai Kori Charana What is it? E Jai Go Jai Jar Mui Taro Das Kansavara Pada Renu Mora Panchagram Kandara Charana Sevi Bhakta Saneva Janame More Avilan E Jai Go Jai Jabe Braje Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korilo Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Sri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Amon Sri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Goriyan Harinam Sankirtan Kohe Narottamadan Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Gaur Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Gaur Hari Bo Jai Gaur Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Gaur Hari Bo Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivraja Acharya Satara Sata Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Jai Saparikar Sri Sri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Govinda Sundar Jiu Ki Jai Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai Nama Charja Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Nabadwip Dham Ki Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai Sri Gupta Govardhan ki jai, Ganga Devi, Jamuna Devi, Bhakti Devi, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Om Vishnupad Vishvavarenya Srilesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Vrinda ki jai, Jai Srila Bhakti Bimalavadut Maharaj ki jai, Jai Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj ki jai, Jai Sri Bhakti Lalita Devi Dasi ki jai, Seva Vrinda ki jai, Somaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sannyas Lila ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande.
Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
And Maharaj,
Yes.
that's from Banavi Didi, Dhananjaya Prabhu, Munindra Mohan Prabhu, Krishna Kanta Didi, Italy, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, UK, Ishanoga Didi and her family, Venezuela, Tapanandini Didi, Savarupa Didi, Mexico, Kumkum Devi Dasi, USA, Tarulata Didi, Belarus, Rupa Vilas Prabhu, Adityananda Prabhu, and Chris Jonathan Bulawan Gore, Philippines. It's his nickname maybe, Chris Jonathan Bulawan, yeah. Suchitra Didi, Ramin Prabhu, Tarun, Ratin Prabhu, I suppose, yeah. Ratin Prabhu.
Must be Ratin something, maybe Krishna.
Ratin Krishna, yeah, from Moscow. Tarun Prabhu, from Russia. Nadia Barandich, Ukraine. Chandran Prabhu, Malaysia. Ananda Gaur Das, India. And Harry Diaz, his name. And
Hari Balab Prabhu.
Hari Balab. And Rasananda Prabhu from Russia.
Hare Krishna. And here we have Audarjalila. And here, that looks like Dandavat Didi, Dandavat. Sankalpa. Is that too? Yes. In China, in Shanghai. Nityananda Das here. And Supriya, Dandavat Supriya. How come their names are not here? Huh? But normally we can do that. Oh, thank you. Sugandha Kanti, Hare Krishna, Dandavat. Please put them back. Malini Didi and Orsk, Dandavat. Lalita Priya Didi, Dandavat. Tapananandini, whoa, Hare Krishna. In old Mexico. Dhananjaya and Chaitanya Moyi in Rome, Hare Krishna, Roma. Paramananda Prabhu in Kyoto, Japan. Ajita Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat. And Paramananda is saying, we initiated this boy today. And where is he? Do you understand that?
Nahodka.
And I'm saying, he's like an hour away from you. Please put the names back. Whatever it is you're doing, stop it. Ajita Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat. And B.R. Madhusudan Maharaj. I think that stands for Bhakti Ranjan. Dandavat. Right? Sushmita Didi, Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Aviram Das, Dandavat. Sulakshana Didi, she's here, Dandavat. Indira, Dandavat, in Kiev. Leela Sundar Prabhu, Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Somya Sham Prabhu, in Ors, Dandavat. Yuvati Didi, Dandavat. Rasananda Prabhu, Ukraine, Dandavat. Kamalini, Dandavat. Leelavadi, she's here, Dandavat. Is that everyone? Oh, I said Ravindra Krishnan Shama Balaba Dandavat. Jai Banchakalpa Tribhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. And please return on Friday for the, I would say conclusion of the, but it's actually, part 2, because we'll go from there as well. But we purposely ended here tonight because of what happens this evening. Tomorrow, as we said, Mahaprabhu all the day and Katwa, and then it's the next day that he actually takes sannyas and then goes wandering around. And Srila Guru Maharaj is eating very simply at this time, taking dalma, the dal with vegetables in it, eating very simply. Because Mahaprabhu will be fasting when he's moving around. And when he comes to the house of Advaita in Shantipur, then feast. We'll feast at that time. Dandavat, everyone. Hare Krishna.